Welcome to Alienating the Audience, a show exploring the deeper side of science fiction. I'm Andrew Heaton, the thinking man's nerd, and today we're going to cover the most underappreciated films in Star Trek. We are joined today by Aeon Skoble. He is a professor of philosophy at Bridgewater State University and a diehard Star Trek fan. Aeon, thank you for coming on the show.
Happy to be here.
And we are rejoined by Tim Sandefur, who's the Vice President of Litigation at the Goldwater Institute and a frequent recurring guest on the program as well. Welcome back, Tim.
Thanks for having me back.
And I thought today we could go over which films in the Star Trek franchise we think are underrated. And I don't know I'd call you a motion picture enthusiast, Tim, but you are sort of a motion picture apologist. And so I thought we could kick it off with you because I think that is a seriously misaligned film by many people, including myself. So please tell me why. I will say this, Tim. I think the motion picture has got a lot better with age, particularly when we legalized marijuana. I have found it to be a more
well,
more
it
fun
has
film
gotten better with age in the sense that the director's cut version of it is actually superior to the original theatrical release, despite the fact that it makes it even longer, which is one of the main problems with the motion picture is that it's too long. And I want to say from the outset that I acknowledge the weaknesses of the film. It certainly has its shortcomings. The primary one being the long panning shots of everybody's reactions to the cloud, which
I was about to say my biggest problem with the motion picture is that it's 2 consecutive hours of the intrepid crew of the Enterprise staring at a cloud. That would be
it very much
my
does
biggest
do that.
problem.
Plus, there's the whole color palette of the film is very dry. It's very gray and blue, and it gets really monotonous.
And I'll add to that the uniforms too. I think are this weird. They all kind of look like this like either pajamas or something that you'd see on the Love Boat. Like they're very like there's a reason that those uniforms didn't stick around.
Absolutely. And of course this was filmed in 1979, so those were probably quite tame and reasonable by the fashion standards of the day.
Middle-aged men in V-necks was actually pretty normal in 1979.
But one of the things the motion picture has a lot of strengths going for it. One of them is the incredible musical score, which is by Jerry Goldsmith, the most beautiful of all the Star Trek music. Even when he reprised the score for Star Trek V and for The Next Generation, it's not as beautifully orchestrated as the original one. And I often tell people to watch Star Trek the Motion Picture as if it's a music video for the score by Jerry Goldsmith, because it's such an incredibly beautiful piece of music.
And I will add to that if you're going to do it with marijuana, that would I think that they would they'd sort of reinforce each other. You get some edibles and do it as a really long music video. I think it would actually be pretty kicking.
It does work quite well that way. Now, as far as the serious philosophical aspects of it, and I one of the great things about Star Trek is that it was always intended to be taken seriously in philosophical terms. If you want just stupid people shooting at each other with laser guns, that's what Star Wars is for. If you want science fiction that actually discusses ideas and is about something human and meaningful, then that's what Star Trek was supposed to be for. And the motion picture attempts this. And the way I see it is motion picture is kind of a summation of everything that Gene Roddenberry's original idea of Star Trek was supposed to be about. And in particular, Spock's journey. The whole point of Star Trek, this is one of my favorite mantras, the whole point of Star Trek is that Spock is wrong. Spock is this vision of logical rationality without emotion and without humanity. And Roddenberry's idea is to speak as a sort of humanist manifesto in the post-World War II world about the beauty and the possibilities and the opportunities and the eventual triumph of the human spirit. And that's the point of the Star Trek series. And then motion picture kind of summarizes that whole journey in the story of how Spock begins the movie seeking to purge himself of every last element, every atom of human in him, which of course is impossible for him since he is half human. And we first see Spock at this ceremony where he's celebrating the eradication of emotion from him, and it stops. He's not actually able to do it. He loses out, and he joins the Enterprise crew really kind of secretly angry about that fact. And by the way, I will say motion picture is without a doubt Leonard Nimoy's finest acting achievement as Spock, because he's so good at very subtly being really pissed off Spock at the beginning. And then gradually what he discovers with V'ger is that this idea of emotionless rational abstraction is meaningless and is empty and pointless. And then there's that beautiful climactic scene when he is lying in sickbay and he grabs Kirk's arm and he says,
"This simple feeling is beyond V'ger's comprehension. V'ger has knowledge that spans this universe. And yet, with all its pure logic, V'ger is barren, cold, no mystery, no beauty."
And he actually starts to laugh and to cry, and he says, I should have known. And that is one of the high points in the entire history of Star Trek, as far as I'm concerned. So if you look at the motion picture that way, as Spock's journey, which then is redone entirely in Star Trek's 2, 3, and 4, in the story arc of that, when Spock yet again starts out as ultra-rational and later becomes what he says in Star Trek 4, he says it is the human thing to do. That's kind of redoing what happens in the motion picture. But that's why I think the motion picture really does stand out as sort of the capstone of Gene Roddenberry's vision of what Star Trek was about. Now, you and I might have disagreements about the correctness of that philosophical position, but as far as expressing that philosophical position, I think the motion picture does a pretty good job of doing that. And then it has, the beauty of the score, and some of the special effects are really fun and things like that. So that's why I kind of defend one. I don't claim it's the best of the movies by any shot, but I think it's way better than people give it credit for.
Yeah, I'll say, I think that it's definitely the most Roddenberry-esque of the films, in that, Roddenberry wanted to have a kind of utopian idea exploration that was going on. And I think that the crew is slightly sedate, it's very, very placid. It's very tranquil. And I feel like that's a very Roddenberry way of looking at the universe. And then the other thing, it's definitely not my favorite film. However, I will concede to the motion picture that I think it's one of the headier films of the Star Trek canon. It's not about getting the bad guys, nor is it a space romp like the Voyage Home. It's exploring some it's kind of, I want to say, sort of a Craigslist version of 2001 Space Odyssey.
Oh yeah, it very much is Star Trek trying to do 2001. Yeah. And remember that 2001 had come out in 1969, which was the last year the original series was on the air, and was 10 years before the motion picture came out. And then of course Star Wars comes out in 1977. So if you take Star Wars and 2001, you add them to Star Trek, what you get is Star Trek the motion picture.
Yeah. And it is playing around with big ideas. It's playing around with Voyager, who's the other main character in the film, who, turns out to be, I feel like spoilers are going to be in this episode, listeners, because you've all had plenty of time to watch all of these Star Trek films that we're going to discuss today. So it turns out that V'ger, this massive planet-sized mysterious space cloud entity, and I will add that I think that the motion picture has some of the coolest shots in Star Trek. It definitely, the sense of we are in space, which is a vast, vast thing, is captured in the motion picture in a way that none of the other films have.
And in fact, so well that when Star Trek II came out, they had to steal scenes from the motion picture and stick them into Star Trek II in order to, because they were so beautiful, they didn't want to let go of those shots.
Yeah. V'ger, who is, threatening life in the solar system, if not the galaxy, et cetera, turns out to be one of our probes that we sent out, Voyager 6 or Voyager 7, and it's been sucked into a black hole and wound up caught by some, alien civilization of living robots, and they upgraded it, and it's coming back with all this knowledge. It's become this giant, super sentient, planet-sized probe, and it's basically looking for purpose, and ultimately finds purpose because Decker and Leah space sex merge / chains, and it's been a while since I've seen it, so I have a difficult time remembering quite how it happens.
And I think to be frank, I think the sex is a large part of it, because it's the passion is what it is. That what V'ger is basically what Spock was striving to be at the beginning, this passionless being that all it had was know all that is knowable, learn all that is learnable, I think is one of the lines from the movie. And Ilea and Decker, the lovers, are absorbed by V'ger and are what complete its mission of trying to learn all that is learnable. One of those essential qualities of being a human being is love and I think Roddenberry would say sacrifice, and these sorts of aspects of humanism that are left out of a purely logical approach to the world, I think is what Roddenberry is trying to say by that scene.
Ian, you've been silent so far. Are you crying as you remember all of the great things from the motion picture? Do you believe it's finally getting its due with Tim here?
I'm crying for a perhaps different reason. In all seriousness, I mean, I've read a lot of Tim's work on Star Trek, and I generally agree 100% with the things that he says. He has this long essay about the original series, which I send to people every time I get into arguments about Star Trek. It's really wonderful. And I appreciate what he's saying about the motion picture, but to me, none of that redeems the fact that all the things he said are true about the concepts, but it's also very poorly executed. First of all, yes, it deals with big ideas, but it deals with big ideas in a completely derivative way. The story is virtually a remake of one of the second season episodes, The Changeling. And so the idea that, the big reveal is this weird alien creature turns out to be an Earth space, it's like, we've literally already done that story. And so I felt betrayed, like as an audience, as a viewer, right? The very first time I saw it, of course, I didn't know what was happening either.
Yeah.
And then when they had the big reveal, it's a space probe, I felt slapped. I mean, I really felt like you guys are cheating me by literally redoing a story. So that's the main thing that occurs to me as far as poor execution of an otherwise good concept, is the fact that it's ripping itself off in order to do this. So like the comparison to 2001, in 2001, it's something completely alien, something completely different. Here, it's a twist that's really interesting the first time and less interesting the second time when it's redone. But that's only the beginning of the many ways in which they execute this poorly. And again, I don't disagree with any of the things Tim says about what it's trying to do or the big ideas that it's tackling. And I really loved the way he was articulating Spock's journey. I love all of that stuff. But the acting is just horrible. Even people whose acting I came to in the original series, I think their acting gets a bad rap. I think people unfairly criticize a lot of the acting.
Yeah, I agree. I think the whole TOS experiment really gets. I think you need to look at Star Trek, the original series, and the context of the history that it's taking place in, and think about the other science fiction that was going on at the time, where people are wearing like foil hats and getting on rockets, and they've got blasto guns and things like that. Yeah. Like it's a far more nuanced, rich series than people are aware of.
It is, and I think people make a big deal out of Shatner's hamminess and whatever, but a lot of that is later Shatner, where he becomes like interested in doing himself. But in 66, 67, it's really not that horrible. But in the 79 movie, it's pretty bad. But it's not just Shatner; they're all pretty awful. And even what's his name, Stephen Collins. I get
is Stephen Collins the kind of bland Aryan like captain that gets the side?
Decker. Yeah. So like I get the idea that what they're going for here. It's like, I'm the rightful captain. Now this retired admiral finds himself on board and he assumes command. So I'm resentful of this fact, and so that's going to create tension. All right, I get that. But Stephen Collins doesn't sell it, and Shatner doesn't sell it either. I couldn't. There was no acting performance there that now Tim was praising Nimoy's acting performance there. Towards the end, yes, I did not find the earlier scenes he was selling those at all to me. That came off to me just real flat, like he'd forgotten how to do the character in the intervening 10 years or something like that. So I wasn't happy with that. I didn't like the footy pajamas that they were all wearing.
Right. I got to say the pajamas are the most striking visual horror of that film. They always look like they're wearing onesies. They're wearing slinkets. They're space slinkets.
But even if I let stuff like that go, I mean, and I thought that I agree that the music was terrific. Obviously, the special effects are a step up from late '60s TV show stuff. Fine, but I didn't find any of the dialogue to really ring true. When you watch the old show, even when they're having conversations about stupid stuff, the dialogue really clicks. It really sounds like this is a real conversation that real people are having. And I don't get that about any of the dialogue in motion picture. And I don't know if that's because they were rusty, having not done it for 10 years or something.
I think to be charitable, I think that they're going for this very atmospheric piece where everybody is very pensive. And I mean, again, Roddenberry had a big hand in it. And I think the mythology around Roddenberry is that he wanted a future in which everybody was so great that all conflict had to happen outside of the ship. And I think that there's very little conflict happening in the ship, despite all of the factors that you mentioned, Ian, of Kirk coming back and seizing the Enterprise from the rightful captain, and like the guy's kind of mad at him, but he's not nearly as mad as he would have been in an episode. And Kirk's like kind of gives a shit, but not really. They're all very sedate because they're so focused on staring out the window at that cloud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except Dr. McCoy. Dr. McCoy's not sedate. Dr. McCoy starts out like really pissed for some reason.
Bearded madman, and he like comes back up. Like I have vague memories of him having this like awesome like sea fisherman beard. And then
because one thing Dr. McCoy never was a hippie, and then all of a sudden he turns out he's a hippie in 1979, which is very strange.
You know what? I get that though, because I feel like I've always been like the guy that gets along well with hippies, but is not one of them. Like I could go to a hippie commune, but I've got my wristwatch.
That's certainly Spock.
Yeah. Well, so, this is my thing is I think that I'll have my midlife crisis like a decade late. And I'll start getting into the cool stuff that my generation did like really late. So I get that. I kind of see McCoy swinging around going, okay, I will be a hippie. Yeah, I think, Tim, that you hit the nail on the head. The Voyage Home is a great music video, and if you watch it as a music video, I think it's pretty fun. But it's a long and absorbing experience. So noting that, then, Ian, what do you feel is the most, or at least an underrated Star Trek film?
I think that the Voyage Home is underrated. I think a lot of the fan community dismisses it because it's this amusing caper film with lots of attempts at humor, some of which is on the juvenile side. And it lacks a lot of the ponderous seriousness. It doesn't have the sort of tight revenge action that you get in Wrath of Khan. It doesn't have the cerebral mood that you get in motion picture. And so I think a lot of fans give it short shrift. But again, your question wasn't best, but most underrated, and right. I think it's got to be 4, because I think that it gets derogated as fluffy out of proportion to how well that actually works as an episode of the show. If you think about episodic TV, which for our younger viewers, back in the old days, TV shows told a different story every week, episodic, and so some of them were more cerebral, some of them were more action-oriented, some of them were actually comedic.
Yeah, the trouble with Tribbles is not a dark exegesis of Hamlet in space. The trouble with Tribbles, is a space romp with cute creatures.
Yes, Trouble with Tribbles is a comedy. Piece of the Action is a comedy. I Mud is a comedy, and those work very well. They're funny, not because you're laughing at them. They're meant to be funny, and the comedy succeeds in those 3 episodes. And even when they're doing serious episodes, there's also time for witty banter between the lead characters and so forth. So I look at Voyage Home as being an extended episode in that vein, where they have some quest to fulfill, save the whales, whatever. But this sets them up in a familiar sort of how are we supposed to get around this obstacle kind of problem to solve. And they've been to the past before, but they've never been to this part of the past, and so they have to learn again how to navigate things. Like when they're
it's a fish out of water comedy, and there's a lot of comedies like that.
Exactly, and so it works. they don't have to contrive how it is that they're all back together because they're picking up from some previous part of the story arc. So they begin together, and it's just like, oh, I guess we have to go back to old Earth now. And so now
you're using the well-established trope of flinging ourselves around a star at light speed, which is never again used in the entire Star Trek franchise. Even though
I'm a Star Trek 6 fan. Oh, yes, we have to be so true to the canon. I'm sorry.
We'll get to the masterpiece that is Star Trek 6 here in a minute.
So yeah, so it works well as a sort of extended episode that combines the serious quest with a lot of opportunities for jokey banter. And to me, it's the one that seems most like watching an episode of the show, even though, yes, some of the jokes fall flat and it's juvenile and whatever, double dumbass. Some of that stuff is a little more contrived than it should be. But the general feel for it actually works for me, and I think fans are a little too harsh on that.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know what's funny is I'm one of those fans who started out that way. When I was younger, I looked at 4 in exactly the way you say, as being kind of the Star Trek for people who don't like Star Trek, and so I had scorn for it for that reason. But I have come to really in recent years appreciate it a lot more for the reasons you say, and also because of how well it works as the conclusion of the trilogy that is set up with Star Trek 2. You know, we have Star Trek 2, we have a very, very serious film with Spock dying and everything. Star Trek 3 and 4 are sort of, 3 I think is in some ways a refutation of 2, and then 4 is kind of a tying up, where, as I mentioned before, we see Spock's journey becoming human. The scene when Chekhov is in the hospital and he says, we have to rescue Chekhov, and Kirk says to him, is that the logical thing to do? And Spock says, no, but it is the human thing to do. That's the moment where Spock really becomes a human being. And then we see the payoff of that in the final scene when he speaks with his father and says, they're my friends. They're not just my shipmates, you know, which is a beautiful tie-up, not just of 2, 3, and 4, but of the original series, where we first learned that Sarek did not approve of Spock joining Star Trek or Starfleet.
Yeah, I really enjoy the Voyage Home. When I was a kid, that was my favorite film by far. I don't remember when it was eclipsed, but for sure, you know, up until I was a teenager, that was my favorite film. Every time I would stay with my Aunt Marge, while visiting her, I would put on the Voyage Home, and I loved it. I thought it was so funny and so much fun. And I, now in my 30s, I was like, I wonder, like maybe I loved that when I was 10 years old. Maybe I would not like it now. Right. Maybe that only works for tweens. And then I went back and watched it, and I was like, no, it holds up. Some of the references don't. Like, there's a moment where, like, William Shatner's trying to be cool, and they're walking down the streets of San Francisco, and he's like, all the best bands did that, Spock. And then he mentions like 5 bands I've never heard of, like 5 bands specific, like they're like 1986 or something. Like, there's specific bands that I should know about right now, and I've never heard of a single one of these things. But whatever writer wrote it was like, we're going to be so hip and cutting edge because we're going to mention the Mime Pockets or whatever group they had. But I thought it was touching. I love the scene where they're running through the hospital, and McCoy has been like time traveling shaman to everybody in the hospital with reckless disregard for the time-space continuum, but he's just walking around curing diabetes and stuff. And you see, as they're running out, this old lady in a wheelchair going, "The doctor cured my diabetes," and it's great. It's a ton of fun. It's a really good. She
grew
film.
A new kidney. He gave her a pill, and she grew a new kidney.
I grew a new kidney. He cured my diabetes. Yeah, it's a fun one. I really enjoy the Voyage Home. I think it's great. Like if and when I have children, I feel like that'll be one to kind of introduce them to, like, hey, here's this fun, time traveling thing.
Well, it was the movie that got me into Star Trek. I was 10 when it came out also, and after I saw it, that was what introduced me to Star Trek, so It can't be that bad.
Yeah, and it touches on a few themes as well. I think some of the themes are kind of lost now, or maybe not as poignant. So, like, there's a moment where Spock is on a bus, and there's some kid with a mohawk with a boombox, and like won't turn it off. And then Kirk keeps saying, would you mind turning that down? And then the guy's like going to punch him, and Spock uses the nerve pinch to knock him out. I feel like the 80s was rife with that. Like, the 80s was rife with this motif of the piece of shit in a mohawk that is gonna like knock trash cans over, and he's probably in a gang, and that's just not a part of my life.
Like in the opening scene of the Terminator. Those are the same type of people that were in the opening scene of Terminator.
Yeah, But I think like wasn't that was more of a thing in the 80s though. There was this like sort of concern of like even though crime was actually going down, people were still sort of remembering the previous decade, so that they were very much afraid of crime like spiking. And it's not an ever present part of the motion picture, or I'm sorry, of the Voyage Home by any stretch, but it's just like a little thing in there. And then the environmental theme I think is still by
the way, a fun little trivia piece. The guy who plays the mohawked punk was an associate producer on the film, and he wrote and performed the song that is being played on the boombox in that scene.
That is a long con where like he's like sitting around with his buddies and they're like, how are we ever going to get our band to like really become top notch? And he's like, here's what we're going to do. I am going to just like strong arm my way into the film. Then that'll be our make or break moment. And then he's probably one of the band's Kirk references. I don't know. But yeah, Ian, I agree with you. I think that is an underrated film. I think it's a good film, and I don't think it should be dismissed merely for the fact it's fun. I think there's this bizarre tendency to dismiss like joy, humor, and optimism as not having gravity to it. I work in comedy, and it's like frequently we're either dismissed as jesters or like it's okay if we're pundits, but if we're not pundits, then like it's flipping. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of effort that goes into comedy. There's lots of truths that can be communicated through comedy. So I think that's a fine film.
Yes, and not just in writing it, but in performing it also. That is demonstrated by the fact that so many great comedians, when they're given a chance to do dramatic roles, just blow you away at how good they are. I'm thinking of Robin Williams, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll kick it to my underrated film, which is The Final Frontier. I think The Final Frontier is a great film. It's one of the first films that I bought because I wanted to watch it regularly. I probably watch it every couple of years. I think the Final Frontier gets misaligned because there's a weird moment where Uhura does a fan dance, which I agree is odd. And it kind of suffers from the same thing. If it's just kind of, it's very, kind of galumpy, a little bit wacky. And there's some strange things like where Kirk says, I always knew I would die alone, and he doesn't. He dies underneath some shrapnel on another planet with Jean-Luc Picard, later on, But that said, though, I think it's really cool. I think the Sybok character is awesome. I think the idea of this sort of sage cult leader who's a Vulcan who has embraced his inner emotion and humor and also refuses to shave. He's the only Vulcan in history who has a beard. I think he's great. I think Sybok is a really cool character, and I enjoy it. I am very glad that they curtailed the ambitions of William Shatner. Originally, they were going to have the Final Frontier star Sean Connery, which would have been cool, by the way. It would have been awesome if Sean Connery had been in it. But that's why they call the planet that the god alien is trapped on Shaka-Ree, because they were trying to induce Sean Connery to come into the film, so they named Eden after him, and he turned it down. So they got the awesome guy that played Sybok, who knocked it out of the park. And then originally, I think Shatner he directed it. I think I can't remember if he wrote the screenplay or not, or how involved he was, but originally he wanted it to literally be God was like actual God was trapped on a planet, and that Kirk had to rescue God from the forces of darkness. So there were going to be these rock monsters that were going to come out, and he was going to fight all the rock monsters, but they were too expensive. So they scrapped the rock monster scene, and they're like, okay, what if we do this, Bill? You're not going to rescue God. What if it's not actually God, it's just an alien, which I think is a way better way to play it. I think it's far better that Star Trek did not try and bring Almighty God into its canon. Although I have read certain treatments of The Final Frontier that portray it as a apotheosis of science over religion. If you sort of view the space alien god on the planet as sort of the god of the Old Testament, or Zeus or Odin, or this like very like old vengeful patriarchal guy in the clouds who hurls down lightning bolts, just sort of the old school god character, and they defeat him. They're emblems of science, and so that's also kind of a Roddenberry way of looking at the world of rationalism and logic ultimately triumphing superstition. And I think there's something to that.
Yeah, well, and then there's the climactic scene when Kirk says maybe God isn't out there, maybe he's in our hearts. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of Shatner's attempt to do that sort of Roddenberry quality. Ian said at the beginning, we were talking about motion picture, about the story, it reminded me of Harlan Ellison, who famously hated Gene Roddenberry. He always said that Gene Roddenberry had one story, and that was man meets God and kills him. And or probably it'd be more accurate to say man meets God and finds that he's obsolete. And that was the story of the Changeling in the original series. And you're absolutely right. That
or Apollo. I mean, they actually they do actually meet Apollo in the original series.
That's right. And they tell him he's obsolete, and that's the end of him. Yeah. So it's kind of it's understandable. The motion picture just repeats basically that same idea again. And then 5 is kind of a weird twist on that, like you said, Shatner was involved in writing up the story, and it comes out as, sort of a fizzled attempt to do something along those lines. Personally, I like Ian said about 4, I see it as being a 2-hour episode of the original series, and it's got its moments. I love the campfire scenes. There's a lot of really beautiful friendship in those moments. So I think I give it a B, maybe a C.
Okay, I won't fight on it, but I'm going to give it a B+ or an A-.
You know what I feel bad about? We left out 3 entirely, and I think 3 is a terribly underrated film. But we'll have to do that some of the time.
Yeah, that it's kind of weird. Like 3 is it doesn't invoke my ire enough to really go on my radar, but it doesn't really fill me with passion enough to go on my radar either. It has middle child syndrome. Yeah, because I don't like Nemesis at all. Insurrection I feel is very boring, and I have real problems with the Kelvin timeline. But
I did not care for First Contact one bit.
What?
I did not particularly love Generations. What? And as I mentioned earlier, I didn't even see Nemesis or Insurrection. 3 is not too bad. It's got a good caper thing going on when they steal the ship. And of course, that they're going to eventually get Spock plugged back in and all that. But
it doesn't violate canon, and it has that beautiful conclusion of refuting Star Trek II, where he says because the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. Which is just a sort of a beautiful tie-up.
No, I guess 3 is also underrated. A lot of fans seem to fetishize like even numbers versus odd numbers or something, but I think that's too superficial.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, 3 is not bad.
Ian, you like Star Trek 3 more than you like Star Trek First Contact and Genesis? I'm sorry, Generations?
Probably. I'd have to watch it again, but in general, I'm not a fan of the Borg at all. I think that's it's a story. It allows for too much lazy story writing to even have the Borg. But the other thing that I really don't like about First Contact is again fracturing, in Tim's phrase, fracturing canon. I don't like retconning the introduction of Vulcans and humans the way that they do it there. I don't like the retconning of Zephram Cochrane's character the way they've done it there. I like, as a fan of the old show, I'm watching that and I'm screaming at the screen like almost incessantly. But the other thing that's bad about that is it commits what to my mind is a pretty bad sin in writing. The best speech that Picard makes is something that he's wrong about. Like, not that I think he's wrong, but that he himself decides later he was wrong about, right? That the line must be drawn here. That's all the clips have that. And he's doing, as an actor, he's doing a great job with that. It's a great scene, but that's in service of something that turns out to be wrong, like in story wrong. And that he regrets. So like, you shouldn't have your best speech be something that you're going to reject later. I think that's an error in writing.
Forgive me. Where does he reject it? Because they do fight the Borg. They do stop them from conquering the Earth.
I don't even remember. I formed this opinion so many years ago.
Okay.
I don't even remember. But I do remember thinking later, yeah, that's not what he said before, or something like. I'd have to watch it again if you want me to get more specific than that.
I love both those films.
With Generations, here's the trick. So when I first saw Generations, I was in high school. I actually just graduated from high school. My high school science fiction club, we were such nerds that we actually rented a limousine to take us to the movie theater to see Generations.
Nice. Yeah,
which meant we got there a half an hour late.
Oh, so no!
We walked into the theater right at the moment that the crew, if you remember right, they're on the holodeck, they're on the sailing ship and on the holodeck. That's the scene we came in on. And when the movie was over, I was like, hey, that's a pretty good movie. I was surprised by how good that movie was. Then I went back and watched it and saw the opening half an hour, and it's terrible. If you cut out that first half hour, which is the whole thing about Kirk's on the ship on the Enterprise B, and somehow Ferris Bueller's friend is in charge of the starship, and it's, next time you watch Generations, just skip the first 30 minutes of it, and it's a much better movie that way.
Well, he does have to get into the Nexus for the whole.
He does, but it's best. But you got to cut your losses somewhere, and you're better off doing it that way.
Well, I disagree with you on all these points, Tim, but I do appreciate that you rented a limousine in high school to go watch Star Trek. That is
that's pretty cool. You get bonus points for that, for sure.
Oh yeah, we watched Star Trek on the TV in the limousine on the way to the theater. It's pretty cool.
Nice. And on that note, guys, I will go ahead and conclude it. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. And Aeon Skoble, it was a pleasure to talk to you as well. I hope you'll come back on the program. We can pick some science fiction trope or issue or particularly good emblematic episode of TOS to talk about.
This was great fun. I really appreciate you having me, and I'd love to come back.
And where can people find you guys?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I am on Twitter. Due to the unusual spelling of my name, I'm not hard to find with a Google search. It's AEON for my first name and SKOBLE for my last name. And if you Google my name, there's not a lot wrong you could go. And so, yeah, I am on Twitter, and I also can be found on a variety of blogs, including a brand new one, which I will take this opportunity to plug. It's called Radical Classical Liberals.
Nice.
And then for myself, you can find me at sandefur.typepad.com, or if you just go to timthelawyer.com, it'll automatically redirect. And then I tweet way more than I ought to.
Nice. Well, guys, once again, it was fun talking to you. Thank you so much. Every week on the program, my friend Nick Sperdute and I, we're both comedians. We go to another planet or dimension. And, last week we actually managed to go on an adventure for the first time in a long while because we found an interdimensional portal in the back of Nick's refrigerator, but Megan, his wife, called a refrigerator repairman to fix it, and the temperature's great now. It works really well, but the portal's gone. The fridge man fixed the portal, so we don't have an intergalactic portal anymore.
Andrew?
Yeah?
I gotta actually be honest. It wasn't Megan. It was Chewbacca.
Oh, was it?
She was kind of annoyed.
My ex-girlfriend.
She was a little bitter about us going to another dimension, and she called to get it repaired. And yeah, I didn't want to stir things. I hate stirring things, but that's the honest to goodness
And you
truth.
know how I feel about repairing appliances out of spite. If you're going to do it, do it because you love the appliance, damn it.
But that being said,
we can play board games or something and then narrate it.
Well, no. You know how I love noodles.
Yeah?
Okay, so we had noodles last night for dinner.
Right.
So innocently enough, I went to heat up my noodles today for lunch, leftovers.
As you do, yes.
As one does. And guess what I found in the back of the microwave?
SpaghettiOs.
Another dimensional portal. And
Whoa!
A couple of SpaghettiOs. We have to be cleanlier.
Wait, there's an interdimensional portal in the back of the microwave?
Yes. The only thing is, I don't think we would fit.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick, I'm looking in this microwave and
I'm going to have to find some WD-40 too.
Yeah, like if we really slick it down, you know what? Hold on. If I slick it down, if we just lube up with butter and
no, it's no use.
Yeah.
These childbearing hips.
Yeah,
I can't get anywhere.
I don't think you're gonna get through. We'd have to dislocate your hips. Are you okay with that? Because we could have one of the Wookiees dislocate your hips.
No, I don't think that's for the best. I don't want to walk funny.
Well, I guess we can just try and go fishing with it or something. Didn't you keep some fishing line inside of your ottoman?
It's in the ottoman.
Okay, let me. Whoa, Nick, get
also,
in here!
we'd probably get cancer from going through the mic. Yeah.
Nick, get in here! Check this out!
Yeah, what's up? Did you get into the ottoman?
Yeah, look at the bottom of the ottoman. What is that?
Andrew?
What is that, Nick?
Oh, hey, the bottom of the ottoman.
Another interdimensional portal.
Move the Scrabble. Don't let the Scrabble fall into the portal.
Yep, there you go. Okay, yeah, and this is definitely big enough for us to jump through. All right, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Well, at least it's not cold.
It's pretty temperate. Although these what appear to be giant ribs were walking around are kind of foreboding.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
You know what we never really thought about? What if we come into one of these without oxygen?
Oh, that's a good point. Do you think there are planets that don't have oxygen in them? We've never even
I don't know.
checked.
I'm just thinking about this now because I'm breathing well.
Maybe we should bring like a balloon with us or something next time, just in case that happens.
Welcome, pilgrims.
Holy hell.
Hey!
Are you from one of those undeveloped backwater planets that believes in deities?
Sure are.
Good, that's me.
Oh, cool. Nick, I think that might be God.
Okay, well, he didn't even...
I am what you said.
God.
God, yes, that's me.
Nick, Nick, we found the God home planet.
I don't think I'm buying this. He wasn't even sure what you said. I'm sorry, sir. Or madam.
Nope, sir is correct.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Nick, are you not seeing that this is a big floating, see-through, transparent, blue glowing bearded head? Like I don't know what
I'm looking at it,
so
yeah.
look, listen. You know, I haven't had a religion in a long time, and I get that,
Yeah.
you know, you get to, you know, you over there, you know, in the Sperdute household, you worship the Italian god.
That's not true.
I don't know a lot about him. I know he lives on Mount Vesuvius and he has a pet donkey.
Okay, that's racist, but
I forgive me, I didn't read the pamphlet. I don't know about the Italian god very well.
it's not a real thing.
But I don't have one of those things, and I just feel like this would be kind of a neat opportunity and possibly a tax break.
Okay, well, first of all, buddy, I think if you want to get into some sort of religious cults game, I'm all for it. You know I'll help you out. I'm your buddy. I'm here with you. But as far as actually believing in this guy, I mean, look at him. I mean, what kind of god wears a wristwatch? He doesn't even know what time it is all the time? Like, look at his arm. He's wearing a watch.
He is wearing a watch.
It's not even that nice of a watch.
Hey, what's a Timex? A Timex is the Rolex of Casio's.
Timex is shit. Do you not see that this is literally Final Frontier?
What?
It's one of your favorite Star Trek
It is one of
movies.
my favorites.
You like it despite the fact that a lot of people don't, and I like it too because we like Sybok, and we've talked about this many times, and I'm not going to get into it again.
Right, Sybok's a great character.
Great character.
And I don't see no Sybok here.
Well, Sybok doesn't have to be here. We got here clearly before or after he did.
So you're
But this is
saying
almost the exact same thing.
the watch-wearing deity that introduced himself a couple of minutes ago is an alien and not actually God?
Precisely.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, guys, I hate to interrupt, but it's getting late. I know that because I wear a watch.
Yep, that's true.
And I just wondered if maybe we could get on to the business at hand.
Yeah. What, so like,
What business? What are we talking
does it involve virgins?
Andrew.
A lot of the gods either want or don't want them. I don't remember how it works. They either want us to...
Do you want them?
Not really.
I'm married. Thanks.
Well, okay, then don't worry about it.
Okay, well that's...
No virgins. No virgins.
Okay, no virgins, yes.
But you can help me with one kind of more specific request.
Okay.
So...
Love and harmony, peace. Do you want us to try and bring world peace? That's a tough order.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, we've tried.
Yeah, we tried it. We're usually accidentally doing the opposite.
No, let's not worry about that.
Okay.
What I would like to do, people need to see me to believe, right?
Sure, that's how I was.
Yeah. So you see, unlike your friend Rick here, who
It's Nick.
does not believe when he sees God clearly in front of him.
My name is Nick.
Rick,
name is-
can you please kindly...
Sorry.
Rick, shut up and let God talk.
All right, go.
Many people, when they have the chance to see God incarnate, will believe in me and receive the true gospel word, truth, light.
Oh. And you wanna give us that gospel to preach to the nations?
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
No, listen.
Oh?
That would be great, but I think horse's mouth on this one. So
Okay.
So I would like you to give me the tools with which I could go anywhere.
Okay, I feel like you're still being a little metaphorical. Can you just be very specific on what you want us to give you?
Okay, so here's what I want. I want a starship, and it needs to have at least warp 8 capabilities.
Are you kidding me? I mean, Final Frontier to the T. Are you shitting me right now? What does God need with the starship? We've all seen it.
Okay, first of all, yes. What does God need with a starship? That is an obligatory line. What does God need with a starship?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, of course you're asking me, because I'm God. Oh, shut up.
Ow! God!
Fuck, he's a Palpatine too. He's God and a Palpatine. Shit. He can shoot lightning bolts.
That's what I need with a starship?
Well, good enough for me. Hey, listen, here's the thing. We don't got no starship. I have an SUV, but that's it. Like it's got 32 miles a gallon on the highway, but that's not going to get you off of this planet. We do have access to this interdimensional gateway we came through. Here, take a look at this. See this swirling square we walked through? You can just come through that.
Are you fucking kidding me? Look at the size of me.
Yeah, that
You
would.
think I'm gonna fit through that? That's like that little square thing. It's like a microwave in size. I couldn't fit through a microwave. Could anyone fit through a microwave?
We just did the same. We had like the same conversation.
Good point. Yeah,
That's crazy.
good point. We actually just had the
Then you
same
know
chat.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Okay, no, well, hold on. Okay. So you don't have a starship.
No, I just have that SUV.
Jesus Christ.
I think I may have a solution here.
All right, Rick for the win. What is it, Rick?
God.
Don't do the. I saw the air quotes.
Yeah, well, I did it on purpose. Can we talk? Can we talk separate? Andrew, will you
Okay,
give us a second?
fine.
Okay, I'll just be over here by this portal.
Thanks, buddy. All right, between us now, okay? It's you and me here. First of all, that shock hurt.
Well, where I'm from, it's a sexual act.
Look at my friend over here. Look at old Andy. Gullible kid. He just wants to be here, just coming along for the ride, and he needs something to believe in. And you're giving him that, but at the same time, I know this isn't real. I know what's what. Just give it to me straight, Jack.
Okay. Well, listen. So,
Come on.
I don't know if you're dealing with this kind of shit, but we just had this outbreak of COVID-19. It's affected all the various floating heads, and we had to all isolate ourselves on little ribcage planets. And the floating head planet, the whole floating head government is really fucking fascist about this. They will not let us leave.
Yeah.
And so, I just want to,
That's crazy.
golly, it's fucking boring on it. We got forests, but that's it. There aren't even fucking animals here. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Listen, okay, I'm not gonna tear down my friend's hope over here anymore, okay? I'm just gonna let him believe what he wants, but I think I may have a solution, okay?
Okay,
Come
hey,
on back
listen,
and
I'm sorry
we'll talk it out.
I'm sorry I titty shocked you.
No, it's fine. It's okay. I mean, it was a little arousing. I will admit that. And we're going through the same thing, by the way. Very similar governments, clearly. A lot in common.
Your government is putting you in complete lockdown? I mean, I get it. It's the only way
Yes.
to deal with the virus. But your government's doing the exact same thing?
Literally the exact same thing. The only difference is there's not a lot of rib cages on our planet, other than inside people. But anyway, let's Heaton?
Joy down in my heart.
Heaton, buddy?
Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart.
Buddy.
I've got
Hey,
that
buddy,
joy.
buddy,
are you
buddy,
finished
buddy.
talking to God,
Buddy,
Nick?
buddy. Yeah. Come here, bud. Come here, pal.
What's up? Did you have a
So,
good one-on-one with the almighty Lord of the Universe who exists now and has a personal relationship with me?
Yep. So we kind of connected. We just kind of had a thing.
That's great.
So I think I may have a solution.
Okay.
So the thing is, our friend here, he just wants to be able to move on and get out, right? And go and spread. So something, I'm going to give him our Oculus Quest.
Wait a second. You guys got an Oculus Quest?
A couple of things
Yes.
here. I have an Oculus Quest.
Those things are supposed to be amazing.
They're really
I
cool.
Can preach,
It is.
I can spread my good word to all the people in the Quest.
I guess that's true, and I wouldn't part with it except for
Absolutely.
an actual bona fide deity.
That's me.
I'll go get it.
Oh, man. Nick, this is
You're gonna
so
love
much
this.
better than I had planned. I wanted to go places, but to be able to go places and not have to get off my couch, this is amazing.
Yeah, trust me, it's gonna change. It's gonna change everything for you. Believe me.
Oh, and hey, whatever you want me to do, man, to keep up. Oh, never mind.
Okay. Hi, Nick. Or Rick. Hi, God. Here's my Oculus Quest. You can have it, I guess. Here you go.
Look
Enjoy.
at the sleek design.
All you do is put this on, There you go. You just pop that on there, and
Okay.
and then you're just gonna hit start. You're gonna have to connect it to this.
No, wait.
Well, the TV here. Just connect it there.
Hold on. It's a little blurry. Let me just adjust the thing.
All right. Well, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to do it while you're here.
Yeah, job is done, I guess. I guess we'll just leave.
All right. Wait. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Okay, bye.
All right. See you
I
later.
didn't even become a bishop.
We're gonna have to get that ottoman fixed.
Oh, wow. Look at this. It's a sprawling metropolis. Welcome to Hot Detroit City. Oh, a regional authority figure.
That's the show. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Tim Sandefur and Aeon Skoble, for coming on. Thank you, Andrew Young and Nick Sperdute, for the comedic vagabonding at the end of the show. Until next week, tally ho!